Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, and shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now let's get into today's tale. My parents changed the locks in my own house the day after I paid off their debts. It wasn't a gift if you're going to hold it over us. My dad snapped, "Your brother needs stability more than you, Dot." Days later, I got a letter that made me hands tremble. I used to think loyalty ran both ways, that if you sacrificed for someone really sacrificed, they'd never forget it. That family meant something unshakable. I don't believe that anymore. I paid off my parents' debts, every last cent of it, the house I grew. Up in was weeks away from foreclosure, and without blinking, I wired over 126,600 to save it. That house had history. I took my first steps on that creaky hardwood floor. I carved my initials in the back pouring. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because I loved them, because they were my parents, and then they changed the locks. On me the day after I cleared their debts, their excuse, my brother needed stability, Kyle the man-child who hadn't held a job in years and floated from couch to couch like a lost balloon, Theon, who'd failed at every business venture and burned through. Our parents' savings in the process. I was erased, and when I pushed back, they accused me of being controlling, of holding the gift over them, as if asking to stay on the deed of a house I saved made me some kind of monster. Then came the letter of forged. Deed my signature sloppily, mimicked, removed from ownership. Just like that, I was written out of the very house I saved. This is the story of how I lost my family and got something far better in return. Remember standing on their porch, soaking wet from a spring downpour, turning my key in the lock and realizing it no longer fit. I tried again, jiggle the handle, even crouched down to check the number, like maybe I had stumbled onto the wrong house by accident. But no, this was it, the same wind chime still hung by the door. The same tulips I planted. In college, we're coming up struggling through the mulch. I rang the bell. No answer. I was about to call when my phone buzzed with a text from Dad. Changed the locks. Kyle's living here now full-time. This house needs stability. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen, not even sure what to feel. Anger, betrayal, disbelief. Then another text came through. You said it was a gift. It wasn't a gift. If you're going to hold it over us, this isn't your house, Elena. It's ours. Kay needs it more than you do. It's hard to explain. The silence that followed. I didn't respond. I didn't scream. I didn't drive away or march back up and pound on the door. I just stood there listening to the rain ping off the gutters and realized something I probably should have seen years earlier. They had never really seen me, not like they saw Kyle, not like the son who always needed rescuing. I was the one who didn't cause problems, the one who paid her bills on time, who built a life, who didn't need help. And in their eyes that made me expendable, I drove home insolence. 2 days later, the letter arrived. It was from a law office I didn't recognize, some back office firm in St. Paul. Inside was a copy of a quick claim deed, a legal document, my name gone in its place, Kyle Palmer. My signature was forged. Barely, it looked like a child trying to copy, cursive for the first time, sloppy, uneven. Whoever did it didn't even try to match my actual handwriting. They were that confident I'd stay quiet. I didn't. The next morning, I called the county recorder's office. The clerk confirmed the deed had been filed recently. When I asked who had submitted it, she checked her notes. Brady Palmer. I thanked her, hung up, and felt the blood rush to my ears. They had removed me from the deed illegally, quietly. Like I didn't matter. I hired a lawyer the next day. Thomas Rios, 60-some, methodical and just angry. Enough on my behalf to care when I laid everything out: the money, the deed, the lock, changed, the forgery. He took off his glasses and stared at me for a long moment. "They can't do this," he said. "But it'll take time," and then he slid a notepad across the desk. "Start writing everything down, dates, amounts, conversations. We're going to need it all." While I gathered evidence, my parents cut me off. They didn't answer calls or texts. My brother blocked me. They didn't even try to deny it. But karma, as it turns out, doesn't take vacations. About 3 weeks into the legal process, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost let it go to voicemail, but something made me answer. "He is this Elena's, this is Sienna. I don't know how to say this, but I've been seeing your brother for a few months, and I think you should know what he's been doing." I didn't say anything. I found a binder in his truck. It had documents with your name on it. Copies of the deed notes he talked about getting the house into his name. Permanently said you were too busy to ever really use it. She sounded embarrassed, even ashamed. "I'm sorry." Didn't know, but once I saw your signature and how bad it was, I started digging. She gave me a flash drive full of everything she'd found, emails, scanned practice sheets of my signature, even a voice memo, where Kyle bragged about getting our parents to just sign whatever I give them that night. I couldn't sleep, and T sat at the kitchen table and stared at my laptop screen, while Thomas combed through the evidence. This is more than enough. He said enough to win and press charges, but we don't have to go that far. I thought about that, about what it meant, about how badly I wanted my house back and how little I cared about revenge at that moment. I just wanted the truth to mean something. So we filed, quietly, legally, without warning, and then I waited for the fallout. The official filing hit them harder than I expected. It started with a voicemail from my father. His tone wasn't angry, I was wounded, tired. He talked in circles, using words like misunderstanding and family business, and how dragging things into court would only hurt everyone. No mention of the forgery. No apology, just a plea to handle this the right way. Then came the email from Mom's subject line. Please, Elena, your father isn't well. All this stress isn't helping. You know Kyle's always had a hard time. Just wish you could talk to us instead of turning this into something public. That word stuck with me, as if I'd made this ugly, as if being locked out of the house I paid for watching my signature get forged was something to solve over coffee and small talk, but I didn't respond. I let my lawyer handle everything. Every correspondence, every deadline, every court document. I stopped explaining myself, stopped trying to be a good daughter. Then came the deposition. It was held in a neutral law office, downtown, a courtroom, just a long table, bottled water, and a court reporter typing with an intensity that made me nervous. Cause showed up wearing a suit he clearly borrowed, still had the tags on the sleeve. He didn't look at me. He sat with his arms crossed and jaw clenched, like he was the victim, his lawyer. A young guy who looked like he probably still called his mom when he cooked. Chicken tried to posture. Thomas was calm, always calm. He started with simple questions, names, dates, relationships. And then he asked, Mr. Palmer, did you submit this deed to the county office? Yes. Kyle mumbled, did your sister sign it? Kyle looked up, smirked. She said she didn't care. I just did what made sense. Thomas tapped a folder, so she did not sign. A pause. She gave me permission. You practiced her signature, Thomas said flatly, holding up the photos from the flash drive Sienna had given me. Kyle blinked. His lawyer stuttered. That's not relevant. It's a forgery. Thomas said, it's extremely relevant. My parents didn't attend. I don't know if they were advised to stay away or just didn't want to see me after the deposition. I walked out into the cool Minneapolis air, feeling like I had finally exhaled for the first time in months, and then a few days later, my mother showed up at my door. I hadn't seen her in person since the day I stood on their porch with a useless key. She didn't look angry. She looked old, tired, in a way that wasn't just physical. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. You're really going through with this? She asked, looking around like she was searching for a crack in the walls or a sign that I wasn't serious. Yes, we raised you. I'm aware you always made more money. We thought you'd understand. Understand what that they could erase me, that Kyle's neediness was worth more than my stability, that a son who never grew up deserved a house, more than a daughter who saved it. I didn't say any of that. I just stood there and let the silence do the talking. I don't know who you are anymore, she finally whispered. That hurt more than I expected. But then again, I didn't know who she was anymore either. I'm someone who doesn't let people steal from her, I said, and then closed the door. The court date came faster than expected. Their attorney tried every delay tactic, in the book illness, scheduling conflicts, questions about jurisdiction, but Thomas was relentless. The judge reviewed the documents, the audio files, the photos of Kyle's signature practice sheets. They didn't even try to deny the forgery anymore. Their argument shifted. It was a misunderstanding, a family matter. Not criminal, just miscommunication. But the judge didn't buy it. He reinstated my name on the deed, declared the quitclaim deed null and void. And because the forgery had been deliberate, he granted me the right to petition for full ownership under a partition claim. In other words, I could force the sale of the home or buy out their portion and remove them completely. They had 30 days to respond, pal. Stormed out of the courthouse. My parents sat frozen on the bench, whispering to each other. I walked past them without looking back. They didn't respond. To the court's offer, no appeal, no buyout attempt, no negotiation. Instead, I got a text from Kyle 2 days before the deadline. Hope you're happy. You're taking the roof over. Our parents' heads real classy. No apology, no ownership, just more guilt. The same manipulation. I'd grown up around but never fully recognized until now. I didn't reply, there was nothing left, to say a month later. I stood in the front hallway of my childhood home holding a clipboard and watching 2 movers haul boxes down the steps. The place was stripped. Nearly bare, the couch was gone. The dining table they'd had since I was a kid already shoved into the truck. I hadn't touched their things, but I had arranged and paid for the movers a last courtesy, even if they didn't deserve it. They had found a small apartment in Northfield. Kyle moved with them. I didn't go to see them off. That house had been a source of shame and guilt and misplaced loyalty for so long that watching it slowly empty felt freeing. I walked room to room that evening, the scent of old carpet and lemon cleaner lingered. I stood in the middle of what used to be my bedroom, now stripped to just 4 pale walls and dusty baseboards, and let myself feel everything I had stuffed down for months. Not just anger or betrayal, but mourning. I hadn't just lost trust, I had lost the illusion of who my parents were. It was painful, but it was necessary. I didn't move in right away. Instead, it made a different kind of plan for weeks. I met with architects, contractors, and nonprofits. I spent time researching community housing programs, and by early fall, construction began. I transformed the house. Literally new floors, open concept kitchen, extra bedrooms, carved from what used to be theaten and formal dining area, new appliances, new paint, new windows. But I kept the porch. I kept the backyard lilacs. I kept a few of the old bricks from the fireplace and turned them into a small garden border right where the tulips bloom every spring. By winter, the house had new tenants, 3 women, all mothers, all survivors of domestic torment or financial abandonment. The local nonprofit I partnered with helped place them. They had kids in tow and no place safe to land. Now they had a home, not a shelter, not a temporary fix-a-home. I dropped by occasionally, not often, just enough to make sure everything was running smoothly. I had a property manager handle the rest. One afternoon, I pulled into the driveway and saw 2 kids playing on the porch, wrapped in scarves and jackets, laughing as they tried to build a snowman on the dead grass. The mother, a woman named Maris, waved at me from the door. This place saved our lives, she told me, smiling through tired eyes. I believed her. The irony doesn't escape me. The very place my family tried to take from me became a refuge for people who actually needed it and respected it. It became what I'd hoped it would be, all along a place of dignity. As for my parents, they never reached out again. No, they're struggling. A mutual acquaintance told me Kyle tried launching another business, a junk hauling service. This time, but it fizzled out. He's been unemployed since. My parents live off fixed income and guilt. Do I feel sorry for them some days? But then I remember the look on my mother's face when she said, "Pal needs the house more than you." And I remind myself, so did I. I needed more than the roof. I needed their loyalty, their integrity, their respect. They chose someone else. So I chose me, and I have never ever looked back.